Hi, a very warm welcome to all the listeners of this video. My name is Nilakshi and I'm working as a soft skills trainer. I've trained around thousands of students in various courses of BTech, MBA, BBA and many other courses. And the key focus of all our trainings is to make them employable, to increase their skills that are there in the industry. So in this particular video, my main motive would be to train you on public speaking. Now, talking about public speaking, let's first understand why for professional students public speaking is really important. See, as an engineering graduate or as an MBA or BBA graduate or for any particular course, public speaking is an art that makes you very confident about what you gain as a knowledge. Whatever knowledge you have acquired over past 3-4 years, it is very important for us to understand that the delivery of that knowledge, for example, the reflection of that knowledge at an appropriate is equally required. This is an era wherein hard skills are important, but soft skills are even more important. In my consecutive slides, I'll talk about what are hard skills and what are soft skills. But to begin with, hard skills are those skills which are transferable. For example, if you are sitting in a classroom, somebody can teach you about the hard skills. But if I talk about soft skills, they have to be acquired through practice. And public speaking is one of the soft skills. So, what actually is public speaking? It is a formal face-to-face communication method where a person uses medium of speech to inform and or influence a group of listeners or an audience. Now, the key here is that we need to influence a group of people and we need to inform them, which means that I have to be very much confident about what I know, because my motto is to influence or inform the other person. Now, there are 3 skills that I talk about which are required to be good at public speaking. The first and foremost is planning and preparation. See, in life nothing is complete without appropriate planning and preparation, and public speaking is not an exception, right? Next is positive non-verbal communication. If I talk about communication equation, I would say that communication comprises of 3 things. The first is the words that we speak. The second is our tone and tuning, and third is the non-verbal communication. Now, if I talk about the weightage of which component is what, I would say that the weightage of the words, that is the words that I choose when I am speaking, is just 10%. The weightage of my tone and tuning would be 30%, which means that the weightage of the most important component of this equation, which is non-verbal communication, is 60%. Which means that if I have a good command over my non-verbal cues, then half of my battle is already won. And third, I would say, is confidence. And confidence cannot be taught, it has to be gained. It has to be gained by repetitive practice, it has to be gained by exposing yourself to a lot of things. Moving ahead, as I was talking about planning and preparation, if I talk about public speaking time allocation, for example, if you say that I want to be good at allocating a particular speech or delivering a particular speech, and I devoted 1 hour for preparation and I'll be devoting 3 hours for practice, I would say that's a myth, and let's demystify this myth. The correct statement would be that you have to spend at least 90% of your time on planning and preparation. For example, if you have to go for any kind of debate or declamation, you need to start early your preparation. You need to start early to prepare your content, your style of delivery, your you have to rehearse your questions and answers beforehand. So 90% of your time has to go on planning and preparation, and only 10% of the time has to go in preparing how your delivery has to be. So see, it is very important to acquire knowledge about that particular thing. It is very important to equip yourself with the correct methodology that you would be using, because 90% of the time has to go for planning and preparation. Moving ahead, as I was talking about planning and preparation, you have to take care of 3 important factors into consideration. The first is the purpose, which means that what is the purpose of your speech. For example, if you are standing here and if you have to talk about, let's say, what are the recent trends in IT industry, you need to be first aware of that why you are going to speak whatever you are speaking. If you are clear about the purpose, then probably your speech would be a cakewalk. The second is you have to identify your audience. Now, I would like to focus here that your speech will not remain constant for every set of audience. For example, if I am talking to kids of 3rd or 4th standard, my words will differ accordingly. If I am talking to kids of, let's say, first year of graduation, my words would obviously be different. And if I'm interacting with some, a set of professional people who are working in the industry, my set of words would obviously be different. So planning and preparation also includes considering what is the type of audience that I have to interact with. And third is that I need to be very particular about the timing, because what happens is that maximum times I devote my time in talking about irrelevant things or unrelated things, and in the remaining time I need to rush up. So in the planning and preparation part only, I need to rehearse about the timings. I need to decide that this, in a very defined manner, that how much time I'm going to devote for what particular purpose. So as my purpose of the speech is important, as my audience has to be taken care of, I believe the timings are equally important. Let's move ahead. As I was talking about non-verbal communication, and I said that in the communication equation, there are three components. So if I have to be very precise, the communication equation comprises of three components. The first is words that I speak, the second is tone and tuning, and third is non-verbal communication. Now, the weightage of words that I am speaking, its weightage is only and only 10%. The weightage of tone and tuning in this particular equation is only 30%, and the weightage of non-verbal communication is 60%, which means that if I take care of this particular aspect, I will not have to focus that much on the first and second, right? So as we say that first impression is always important. We have heard a lot of stories about it, that first impression is the last impression. Well, I totally agree with that, because if the first impression is to the point, is very precise and actual, I believe half of our battle is already won. So first impression, yes, they do matter, and because of this equation, we believe that non-verbal communication, if we have a good command over it, then I think it becomes very easy for me. So I will give you 3 or 4 tips using which you can take care of your non-verbal component while public speaking. So first is, while standing in a public speaking platform, you have to stand straight. I would say you should be dividing your weight equally on both the legs. Your backbone or your spinal cord has to be straight enough, your neck has to be straight, chin has to be parallel to the floor. You should be able to maintain an eye contact with each and every person sitting in your audience, and yes, you should be carrying a smile on your face, because it's very easy to identify a person who is not confident while speaking, because one, he is not smiling, 2, he is not able to maintain an eye contact. So for example, right now if I am looking at the roof time and again, if I am not able to look at the audience at the appropriate levels, then probably the audience will be able to identify that yes, this particular person is not confident at all. So yes, non-verbal cues, they do matter, and the 3 or 4 tips that I have shared with you, I think that would be sufficient to begin with. First is standing straight, dividing your weight equally on both the legs. Second is keep your neck straight. Third is keep your chin parallel to the floor. Fourth is maintain an eye contact with the person with whom you are talking to, and yes, occasionally you can smile. Right. There are various famous case studies which says that the first 7 seconds of your interaction with somebody, they are really, really important. So if you are able to impress a person in first 7 seconds of your first interaction, I think they get an impression of yours that yes, this person is confident. Studies have also shown that non-verbal cues have 4 times the impact on the impression you make over anything you say, right? So this is how important the non-verbal cues are. Moving ahead, if I talk about non-verbal communication, what are the small things that we can do to adjust it so that we score good on the 60% part? So let's talk about them one by one. The first is adjusting your attitude. Now, what do I mean by that? It doesn't mean that you have to carry a particular attitude. It's just that just be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. You have to be your own self, which means that you need to take care of this particular fact that you don't have to mimic anybody. You don't have to copy anybody. Just be your original self and stay positive. Sometimes positivity helps you out in a lot of manners, and during public speaking situations too, your attitude, the right attitude will matter a lot. Second is visualize yourself doing well. Now, before entering a public speaking platform, we have an intuition. We start imagining that what if I'll fail? What if I don't get correct words to talk about the thing that is there in my mind? Well, I say what will happen? Nothing big will happen. It's just that feed your mind with positive thoughts, feed your mind with the right kind of thoughts, and that will help you out. And moreover, visualize yourself doing well. So for example, if tomorrow you are going to participate in a debate or a declamation competition, today when you are sleeping at night, just imagine that yes, you are doing the right thing, you are being appreciated by everybody. Visualize that, and that power of visualization will give you confidence in the next particular day. Third is dress for success. Sometimes what happens is that when you are not dressed appropriately, you lose most of the confidence. So if you are dressed according to the occasion, if you are dressed according to the situation, that automatically gives you a lot of confidence, and you will see an improvement in your attitude, your motivation levels as well. Fourth is speak clearly. Now what happens is that sometimes there are certain people who speak very fastly, and sometimes there are people who speak very slow. So first we need to understand that if we are using a mic, we don't have to be that loud that we are shouting on the mic. And for example, if you're not using a mic to talk to somebody on a public speaking platform, you have to maintain your voice levels at a particular level that your voice is audible to almost everybody sitting in the audience. And yes, this takes practice, this takes a lot of practice. So speaking clearly, which means that focus on each and every word very carefully. Don't just beat around the bush, just focus on each and every sentence, focus on each and every word. Give small pauses where you think there should be a comma in a sentence, and give long pauses where you think there should be a full stop in a sentence. And yes, this again comes through practice. Then is adjust your posture. As I talked about the communication equation, where we said that 60% weightage is of non-verbal communication, then it becomes very important to understand this thing, that your posture actually matters. So while sitting or while standing, take care of your posture. Quickly in your mind check it up that whether you are using the right posture or not. Next step is smile. It doesn't cost a penny, it's free of cost, and you can use it to your advantage. You can use it to make the other person believe that this person is confident because this person is smiling. If I would not have been confident, I would have had various other expressions on my face, but since I believe I'm smiling, I think you believe that I'm confident enough, right? Okay. So next is maintaining an eye contact. Now very often this happens that when a person is speaking to a lot of people, when there is a one-to-many interaction, we often forget to look at every other person, right? So this might give an impression on the audience that this person is not confident, or this person might be ignoring me in some way or the other. So the right strategy is to look at every person sitting in the audience, not every time, but occasionally you can do that. So for example, if somebody is sitting at the back side, somebody is sitting on the front row, make sure you don't miss out on anybody. Right. Next is observe your body movements. Your body movement should not be very loud, your body movement should not be very very unloud. So there has to be a balance. You might use your hands while talking, you should not restrict your hands completely. So you have to observe your body movements, and you can use it according to your flow of speaking. Then is observe your facial movements also. Yes, along with smile, your eyes also speak. The way you say also speaks a lot. So it's not only about your words while public speaking, it's also about how you use your facial expressions. That also matters. Next is observe your voice pitch and tone. You need to observe, you need to you have to be very vigilant about what kind of voice, what are the levels of your tone and tuning that has to be taken care of. Then is, I am trying to share certain positive examples of non-verbal communication, and in the subsequent slides I will be sharing the negative examples of non-verbal communication, so that you will be able to distinguish very nicely that what are the positive things that you can do and what are the things that you should be avoiding. So first is head looking up. Right. So for example, if your head is looking down, or you are not looking in the front, then probably that's a negative sign of non-verbal communication. A smile on your face, I've repeated it I think many times now, that a smile will always help you out. Then is free arms. Don't restrict your arms, don't keep it on the table, or don't rest them anywhere. You have to keep your arms free, because in case if your arms are moving along with your words, that will be very, very impactful. Then is keeping to one area of the stage. Now, if I talk about public speaking, when you are restricted to a particular dice, you should be keeping to one particular area of the stage, because you know all the audio systems would be available there. So, in order to make your voice reachable to the people, ideally you should be keeping to one area of the stage. That does not mean that you have to restrict your hand and body movements, right. You can remain to at that particular area, but not necessarily you have to stick to that particular position. You can move a little bit here and there. That is making eye contact with various members of the audience. I have said this before also, that looking at each and every person is very important, because if there are 10 people in the audience, or if there are 100 people in the audience, we do not need to ignore anybody. We need to take care of everybody. At least maintaining an eye contact will give them an assurance that yes, this person is confident, because this person is smiling, this person is making an eye contact, right. Moving ahead, let us talk about some negative examples of nonverbal communication. The very first is head looking down. Now, this is the first example, and I think if you visualize this, somebody who is looking up and somebody who is looking down, the difference is very clear. A frown on your face. You know, sometimes when we are tensed, when we are not very happy about what we are doing, then a frown or a negative expression on our face is inevitable. So, we need to avoid that. Then is exaggerated hand and arm gestures. We do not need to move our hands very frantically and very fastly. We need to be conscious about how we are using our hand and body movements. Then is folded arms. Folded arms is a gesture that reflects that the person is not open for communication, that the person is closed for communication. Well, this has been depicted by many body language experts. They believe that in case if you are using your hands, that reflects that you are a positive and a confident personality. If your hands or arms are crossed like this should be avoided while talking to anybody. Then is wandering about the stage. When you are wandering from here and there, first is that it is not it should not be taken for granted that audio systems would be available at every particular location, because sometimes it happens that the sound quality will be excellent at one particular place. So, let us restrict ourselves to one particular area of the stage, but do not restrict your hand movements at all. Only focusing your eye contact on one or two members of the audience. You do not have to do that, you have to take care of everybody. Right. So, moving ahead, I am going to share a secret of effective public speaking, which I believe that is the secret ingredient that has helped out a lot of students, and I will be sharing that golden rule with you, right. And I am very sure that you are going to keep that golden rule with you very safe, right. And the golden rule is practice, nothing else. The more you practice, the more you observe people, the more you iterate and reiterate this particular thing, the more confident you will get. So, that is it about public speaking. I hope you are going to start your public speaking sessions very soon. Now, I believe the audience of this particular video are people who are into their professional courses. So, it happens in many of the professional institutions that there are a lot of extracurricular activities, there are a lot of co-curricular activities, intra-department activities. Go and expose yourself to all those areas, because that will give you a platform to analyze how good you are in public speaking, and this is also going to help you out in your professional career, because it is not about introverts are not good at workplace and extroverts are not good at workplace. See, every combination is required in the offices and corporates. It's just that the right balance has to be there. What to speak where is a skill, and public speaking is going to give you that skill, but yes, the practice has to be done by you. Thank you so much.